Welcome everyone to the third and final night of Hinton Mills Cattle Health Days, our informational sessions that we're obviously doing via Zoom. We appreciate you being here. We've been doing this event for several years. We've had this Cattle Health Day sale for quite a few years in a row now. We have everything on sale at all 5 Hinton Mills locations that we feel like you need coming out of winter, getting ready for hopefully a profitable spring and summer. So you can make those decisions now, everything from pour-on dewormer, flag tags, scales, squeeze chutes. We've talked about Ritchie waters. Tonight we're going to be talking about mineral. We're going to be talking about various forms of mineral. We're going to be talking about 10G probiotics, and we're also going to be talking about Matchmaker cubes and MGA. But before that, we're going to start off with a little bit longer session. We're going to go 20 minutes or so with Dr. Darrh Bullock from University of Kentucky. He's going to be talking about genetics of cattle health and how to improve your herd's health through breeding. So we're going to be just a few minutes away from that. A little bit of housekeeping. Do want to let you know that we are recording this session, so we'll be using this at other functions throughout the year and our social media in the coming days. Also want to let you know, remind you that at the bottom of your screen, this is how we're asking the Q&A. It's worked really well this week. Last night we had some really awesome Q&A with Dr. Hinton, and the night before the same with Dr. Prater. But there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Anytime throughout the night that you've got a question, ask that question. We'll probably wait until the end of the presentation to ask it, but we look forward to that Q&A, and however interactive you want to make this, as much as you put into it is, like they say, is as much as you'll get out of it. So again, we've got a sale going on all 5 Hinton Mills locations on anything that you need animal health related this week. Give us a call, stop and see us curbside. And past 2 nights have been a lot of fun. We're looking forward to tonight. I do want to do a few thank yous. We also have an event coming up earlier in the week. We had our state veterinarian, a new state vet, and our new deputy state vet. We had Katie Flynn and Alex Hagan. They're going to be back. You can see on your screen on April the 27th. Dr. Hagan's going to be here. Dr. Flynn might be as well. We're going to try this again, an hour-long session on April 27th, talking about their secure beef plan, which is basically, we've been through COVID this year. We've been through the human version of this. What happens if we have some sort of outbreak as it pertains to livestock? So mark your calendars for that. We hope that you can join us for that. Also, a little bit later, just for a few minutes, Nikki Whitaker from Kentucky Cattlemen's Association is going to be on here. They've been a good partner of ours. They're going to be talking about, Nikki's going to be talking about some of the things, maybe how they've adapted to COVID, but more specifically, just the benefits of being a KCA member. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Bullock so he can share his screen, and be sure to ask questions throughout, and we'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Adam. I appreciate it. Now, I appreciate the invitation. It's kind of, I do want to point this out that that Hinton's, I guess, dedication to the whole herd practices, because I'm not going to help you sell a single product tonight. I hate to tell you, but I do appreciate that you guys do well when cattle producers do well, and I think that's the intent of this. And so we're gonna hopefully help you out a little bit in what to do with your genetics program to maybe help your herd health in the long run. So we'll go ahead and get into it. So I think most of you know that when we deal with genetics, for any trait we deal with, there's 2 components, both the genetic component and also the environment. And so when we think about a trait such as health, now granted, health is a very complex term. It's really not a trait, it's multiple traits, but let's just look at it this way. We have health, which is our trait. We've got the genetic component. As you can see, there's 2 parts to genetics, and we'll talk about both of those. And then here below, the environment. Now, when I talk about environment, that also includes management. And I don't want to oversell the genetics part of it, because I think you have to understand that the best way to take care of your health of your herd is through your management practices. There's not much we can do about the weather and those types of the environment, but the management you can. Feed them properly, make sure that they have the good mineral, the proper minerals to have good health, vaccinate, do all those things in management that's going to get you to the point with health. And then we can kind of hopefully boost that along with some of our genetics practices. But like I say, don't want to undersell the management part, because that is where your biggest bang for your buck in health resides. So the impact of genetics, we have, as I mentioned, there's two components. There's the heritability part of genetics, and heritability is just a term that tells us how fast or how effective we're going to be when we make selection decisions, okay? So a highly heritable trait, you can make a lot of progress fairly rapidly, but a lowly heritable trait, the progress is slow and takes some time to get that implemented. We also, I showed you the term heterosis. Well, crossbreeding is what determines what level of heterosis that you have in your herd. And so how good a job you do with crossbreeding is going to improve the heterosis. And I'll show you the impact of both of these on your herd as it pertains to health. So here are just some of the traits that we deal with. And I wanted to point out what their level of heritability or their level of heterosis was, or how much impact we get from heterosis. So if you look at traits like our carcass traits or frame size, or even the mature weight of our cattle, those are highly heritable traits. That means if you wanted to change any of those traits, you can do it fairly rapidly through your selection practices. You can see that heterosis, on the other hand, is fairly low. Okay, and so remember, when we have low heterosis, that means that there's not a great impact. So crossbreeding does not greatly influence carcass traits or frame size or those things. When you look at traits like growth and milk, if you think of the production traits, that's what a lot of us in Kentucky with our cow-calf operations focus on. They are both mediumly heritable and medium level of heterosis or impact of heterosis on those traits, which means we can make good progress since heterosis is kind of middle ground. So we can make progress, just not as fast as maybe some of those highly heritable traits. In the heterosis, we have a medium impact, so we do get benefits there. It's not it's worth our while, and we do get good improvement when we have a good crossbreeding program on both the growth and milk that we have in our cattle. But let's look at this bottom categories, because we're focusing on health tonight, and let's see where health, which is in there with reproduction, maternal ability, cow longevity, some of those traits are all lowly heritable, which unfortunately means that we don't make much progress through selecting for those kind of traits, okay? We make much better progress by actually implementing crossbreeding and having good management practices. So for any trait that's lowly heritable, what we want to do is focus on good management and a good crossbreeding program, but we are going to touch just a little bit on how we can do some improvements with our selection practices as well. So when we think about selection, as I said, health is a lowly heritable trait, which means progress is going to be slow. If any of you that have heard me speak, you know I talk a lot when we talk about selection about expected progeny differences. That's a tool that we have as cattlemen to select bulls that are going to help us for specific traits. Unfortunately, we currently don't have any EPDs that deal with health. So we don't have any traits that we can directly select for health based on their EPDs. In the future, and I'll talk about the future here in a little bit, hopefully that will change, but currently that's the situation. So can we realistically impact health through selection? We can, but it's indirect. And it's the two traits, calving ease and udder quality, that can have some impact on health through our current selection practices. And we'll talk about both of those. So calving ease. First of all, I show this picture and I ask producers, I say, is this picture, do you think this is a good picture or a bad picture? And this is a guy pulling a calf, right? And most people want to say, well, that's a bad picture. I disagree. That's actually a good picture, because what would be the situation if that cow needed assistance and that farmer wasn't there? that would be a bad situation. And so the fact that we have to pull some calves sometimes, we don't want to, and we can do some things to avoid it, but it beats the alternative, which is that cow not being able to have that calf and either the calf or the cow dying. So how calving difficulty impacts overall health. Now, of course, it's not good for the cow, the physical condition of the cow, but it also delays first nursing, because if that cow has a difficult time having that calf, she may be delayed in getting up because she's going to rest a good bit longer before she gets up. The calf is going to be exhausted. It may have a delayed period in getting up. And so we get delayed first nursing. Where that becomes important is because colostrum, or that first milk, that where the calf gets most of its antibodies, it's not born with any, so it needs to get those antibodies through that colostrum, and so which is extremely important to calf health. If there's anything that you want to do to try and help your calves to stay healthy, particularly in the early stages of life, it's to make sure that they get up and nurse. And they need to do this within the first 6 hours after birth. It's really important because every hour after that calf is born, their ability to take up that colostrum and put it to good use is reduced. And by 12 hours after birth, they get almost no benefit from the colostrum. So we need to get them up, need to get them to nurse that colostrum early. And the sooner, the better. So I wanted if we're going to talk about calving ease and we want to reduce calving ease, because if we have calving trouble, like I said, there's a lot of other issues, but as it pertains to health, it's that delayed nursing. EPDs, just to remind you, that's the best tool that's available that we have for selecting bulls. It's used to compare bulls or determine their rank within the breed. So we can by looking at the EPD, the bull with the higher calving ease EPD, and we'll go through that in a second, is going to be the bull that is going to require less assistance when his calves are born. We also have what we call calving ease maternal, which tells us how easy a calver's his daughters are going to be. And like I said, we'll go over those. The reason EPDs are as good as they are is because they use a lot of information. It uses information like the birth weight of the calf or that bull when he was born, all the measurements of whether there was difficulty when he was born himself or any of his relatives. We also now have genomics information that can play a role in our when we were making to compute these EPDs. And the beautiful thing about EPDs is it takes out the management and environmental component of those actual weights. So that what we're looking at with an EPD is actually genetic merit differences of the bulls. It is a risk management tool, which means it's not perfect. You can buy what you think is a calving ease bull and have to pull some calves sometimes, particularly on low accuracy bulls. It's the best estimate we have, but it's not perfect. So just be aware that if you buy a bull that's not what he was portrayed through his EPDs, that doesn't mean they didn't work. We just didn't get it right with that bull. Don't give up on them. They're still the best tool we have. So how calving ease works, the EPD, here are two bulls, two Charolais bulls, and this is what we call our calving ease direct EPD. The bull on the left has a 10, the bull on the right a 3. If we were to breed those two bulls to equal cows, or heifers rather, under equal management and environment, we would expect the bull on the left to have 7% less assistance to the females that he was bred to when they calve. Okay, and that's considerable if we have 7% less assistance out of that bull. So he's going to do a better job of giving us the calving ease when the females that he was bred to actually calve. As I said, we also have what's called calving ease maternal, and these two bulls, the Angus bull on the left is a 12-pound calving, or excuse me, pound shouldn't be there, guys. I'm sorry, that's a typo. It should be percent there. So the calving ease maternal on the bull on the left is 12. The one on the right is a 7. So if we were to breed these two bulls and get a group of their daughters, raise their daughters, and then breed their daughters to equal bulls under equal management, we would expect the bull on the left to have 5%, his daughters to have 5% less calving difficulty than the daughters produced by the bull on the right. And so if you're keeping back replacement heifers, you might want to look at that calving ease maternal EPD. Higher values means that bull's daughters will be easier calvers. I mentioned the other trait that has an impact on health, are the udder scores. And now currently, I believe the only breed that has udder score EPDs is the Hereford breed. I know a lot of the other breeds are collecting data and will probably have this EPD in the future. Basically, the concept is the more tightly supported, so the tighter it is. And now we can go extreme, and we want to avoid extremes, as I say here. So this second one here is probably more ideal in terms of how tight we want that udder to be, because as it starts getting looser, we a lot of times will see more problems like mastitis and things like that, and just the udder integrity breaks down. And also we want a relatively small teat size. And once again, extreme is not what we're looking for, but probably this second group here is about what size we want. And how you want to look at those, if you're looking for EPDs, this is going to tell you about that bull's daughters. Higher EPDs means a more desirable udder in that bull's daughters, okay? And what we're trying to do here, once again, is if we have the situations like particularly these extremely large teat sizes like you see in these bottom two over here on the right, the calf has a hard time nursing and getting that colostrum, especially when he's young. He just got up and trying to nurse, and her bag is ultra full, and those teats are really large. They have a hard time getting colostrum and therefore tend not to be as healthy calves once again. So in the future, from a selection standpoint, hopefully we're going to get EPDs for health. Some that have been worked on are things like BVD resistance and also pink eye resistance. Hopefully, and those are heritable, but they're lowly heritable traits. And once enough data is collected, and particularly if we can get this genomics factor in there and start getting some more information on genomics information to feed into those EPDs, I think that will be a reality. If I had to guess, I would say in the 5 to 10 year range, hopefully we will start seeing some EPDs for some of the different health traits. But currently, you have to go about it in a roundabout way, as we discussed with calving ease and udder scores. So let's move back over to the crossbreeding, because really and truly, folks, this is the breeding practices that is going to make the biggest impact on the health of your herd. So from a genetic standpoint, the crossbreeding and heterosis is the biggest factor that's going to benefit you. Heterosis, that term just means the advantage that a crossbred has over the average of the two breeds represented in the cross, okay? I like to tell people, think of a trait like, let's even use an example of the dairy industry. We have Holstein and we have Jerseys, okay? And for milk production, everybody knows that Holsteins have extremely high milk production and Jersey have a lower level of milk production. Well, if we were to breed a Holstein to a Jersey and there was no such thing as heterosis, we would expect the average milk produced by that offspring to be between those two breeds. But in effect, we get an increase above the average of those two breeds. And that's what heterosis is. That difference is heterosis. For any one trait, of course, you know, the one breed may be better than even the crossbred. But the beauty about crossbreeding is, and heterosis, is that it positively impacts every trait we measure for it. It either has no impact or it positively impacts that trait. And so we want to think about crossbreeding as the cumulative effect. And the biggest traits that crossbreeding impacts to our economic benefit is health and reproduction. And so those are why it's so important to us and to get that across. As a reminder, as I said, we're talking about health tonight. We can't do much from selection, but we can really do a lot from a good crossbreeding program to make sure we have good heterosis in those calves so that we do get better health. Another term you may have heard for heterosis is called hybrid vigor. So crossbreeding has a positive impact on health, okay, and particularly the health of calves. When we have crossbred calves, think about that name, hybrid vigor. Hybrid vigor means that they get up and get going better, and faster. Okay, so that has a lot of health benefits. It greatly improves the survival of calves from birth to weaning time. And so it has a big impact on the overall health of that calf to help them to live to weaning time. We have improved longevity of the cow. That's another health thing. In order for a cow to stay in the herd for a long period of time, it means she has had to have good health over her lifetime. And so we get a big boost there as well. We also get some improved maternal characteristics of the cow, which, once again, and I know I've emphasized it a lot, but leads back to that ability of that calf to get that first milk or that colostrum, which is a huge impact on his health as well. So some different crossbreeding systems we have. We're not going to go into a lot of detail. I've got some diagrams to show you here on these rotations here in a second, but we have what's called a two-breed rotation, and we have two different types, and I'll discuss both of those. We have three-breed rotation. We have terminal cross systems. I don't have a diagram for that, but a terminal cross is simply where you purchase your replacement heifers, and let's say you buy black baldy replacement females, and then breed them to a terminal breed, let's say a Charolais, and then you sell all the calves. Everything gets sold, and then you buy your replacements back again the next year and as you need them and so forth. Probably the most effective way to crossbreed that we have, but very, very underutilized because most everyone wants to keep back their own replacement heifers. I understand that, and so then that's why we show you some of these other crossbreeding systems. But if you wanted to truly get at probably the most effective crossbreeding system that we have available but underutilized, it is a terminal cross type system. We can also use composites or crossbred bulls, and I'll talk about that a little bit after we go through the systems. So 2 and 3 breed rotations, this is what we would call the structured system, to where what we're doing with a 2-breed rotation is we have 2 different breeding pastures, pasture A and pasture B. So in pasture A, we have the cows. I want you to follow this diagram. The females that go into this pasture are the ones that are produced by this mating. So in other words, when B is the sire and those calves are born, they go into breeding pasture A so that they can be bred to the other breed of bull, which is breed A, okay, and vice versa. The calves produced by the A sire go into the second breeding pasture, and they would then be bred by the B, the sire breed. And when we do that, we maintain about 67% of maximum heterosis. Not perfect, but we're doing a pretty good job there with our heterosis. And then we can market all the steers and non-replacement heifers, and they're going to be fairly uniform to each other. So we have a very uniform system here, and it works really well. And this works well for Kentucky producers that at least have 2 breeding pastures. This system can work well. It's easy to implement a tag system. So when these calves are born, the heifers that you keep back, put a red tag in their ear, and you know that the A bull is always bred to red tag females. Put a blue tag in the females produced by this mating, and you know that breed B is always bred to the blue tag calves, or females. And so it works out really good, and it doesn't require a whole lot of management to do. 3-breed system is the same thing, but we have an order of rotation, and we just have incorporated 3 breeds now. So you have to have 3 breeding pastures. This picks up the heterosis to about 87% as opposed to the 66%. So it does increase the amount of heterosis we get, but as you can see, it does add a little bit to the complication of what you have to do. You can still use a tagging system to keep up with it, but there is some added management required for this. And like I said, the other thing is it requires 3 bulls and 3 breeding pastures. I want to move back to the other that I mentioned about the rotating breed every 4 years, because that's the simple way to do this without having to do the actual rotation. If you only have a 1 bull unit, you only have 1 bull any particular breeding year, then I would encourage you to at least to change breed of bull every 4 years. Now you can choose 2 or 3 breeds that you like, and every 4 years, just change which breed you're breeding to the cows After his 4 years are up, then you would move to a second breed or the other breed and go for 4 years. With that one, we only get about 50% of maximum heterosis, but that's way better than just going straight bred and not getting any heterosis. The other, let me reach back, the other system that gets you about the same heterosis as that switching back and forth between the two breeds is if you use composite bulls or these crossbred bulls, say a Sim Angus or a Lim Flex or something like that. When you use those breeds of bulls, you can just stay with the same breed all the time, say a Sim Angus. You can breed Sim Angus year after year after year. Make sure you're not using, say, a previous bull's son or something like that. But if you do that, if you just use, say, Sim Angus every year from here on out, you're going to maintain about 50% of maximum heterosis over the long haul. And so it's once again, much better than just going with, say, either just Simmental or just Angus for year after year after year, where you get no heterosis. So that's a way to at least be very simple, but still get your heterosis. So the take-home message tonight is that the biggest contributors to herd health are environmental and management factors. Focus on that management. Feed them right, folks, and that includes a good mineral program. Minerals are critical to health. Vaccinate them. Do all the things that all the other specialists tell you to do from a management standpoint to keep our cattle healthy. Selection can currently impact herd health, but it's in an indirect way. And that's things like making sure you have good calving ease so the calves will get up and nurse quickly, and also make sure that you're getting good udder quality in your females so that you can get that improved nursing, particularly that improved early nursing. And then the best genetic tool for improving herd health is a good crossbreeding system. We don't want to ignore the selection part of it, but by far and away, if you're going to choose one thing to do from a genetic standpoint to improve your herd health, is to implement a good crossbreeding program and stick with it over time. It gets very easy to get kind of lackadaisical and find that one breed that you like and just keep breeding to that one breed. But it doesn't do you a good job in terms of crossbreeding and heterosis. And the two traits that you give up are very, very economically important, and that's health and reproduction. So let's make sure we have a good crossbreeding program. And Adam, with that, I am done. I'll turn it back over to you, buddy.
All right. Well, we've got some cues. If you've got some A's, we've got some questions here. So the first question for you is: do calving problems impact the residual fertility of the cow?
Absolutely. If you have calving problems, then you have a longer postpartum interval. So it takes longer for her to rebreed if she has calving difficulties. And that's why Dr. Anderson highly recommends that if you see her trying to have a calf for about an hour and she hasn't progressed, pull the calf. Get it out of there. And then that's going to greatly improve that calf's ability to get up and nurse and her ability to get rebred.
Okay, we've got a series of questions from KCA members that submitted these questions, and the first one is the EPDs of bulls on the market now seem to be at the upper extremes. What EPD traits come to the top when making purchase decisions?
Adam, the advice I give people all the time is look at the EPDs for your herd that either put money in your pocket or take money out of your pocket. That's a simple way to look at it. If it's a trait that can make you money or not cost you as much money, then it's a trait that's important to you, and don't worry about the other traits. So for the cow-calf producer that's selling weaned calves, then you're certainly going to have to look at calving ease. Calving ease direct for sure, and that tells you how easy that bull is going to be as a calver. You need to look at the weaning weight EPD, and we don't necessarily need to shoot for the moon because if we do, we get the positive impact of heavier weaning weights, right? But what do we also get? That trait is highly correlated with mature size. So if you keep back daughters, then those cows could be extra large and cost you money in the long run. So you have to keep an eye on both of it. Adam, the other one that this person might be talking about that can get extreme is milking ability. Everybody thinks they need to put as much milk as possible in their daughters. But if you're going to do that, make sure you feed them properly too. Because if you put too much milk in them and you don't have the environment or management to support that level of milk, then what happens? They lose body condition, and then you don't get them rebred. And so that's a huge problem in Kentucky. I probably see more cattle that have too much milk than not enough milk in Kentucky. So that might be the trait that that person was kind of targeting there. And really and truly, Adam, the other one, calving ease, we can go to too much extreme there as well. And it seems like some of the breeds have gone crazy with how high those numbers have got. You need enough calving ease in the bull you're buying so that you don't have to pull calves. But getting a bull that's, say, at the very top end of the breed is not going to benefit you any more than that bull that gave you the level of calving ease so you didn't pull calves, right? So you may have paid $500,000 extra dollars for that extremely high calving ease bull when a moderate bull could have been all that you needed, and you could have got it for a lot better price.
Okay, I've got another question submitted by a KCA member. That just in considering, I guess, cost and efficiency as the metrics that you're looking at. They're just wondering about the difference, your opinion on AI versus the bull.
It's a good question, and there's I really think there's a place for both. I think that we have some great opportunities with AI, and we have some great opportunities with natural services as well. When you're looking at natural service, you need to, of course, find the right bull for your operation. Now, typically with natural service, the accuracy is going to be lower. So there is a risk that that bull isn't going to be exactly what you think he's supposed to be from a genetics perspective. But we can still get really good bulls across this state to use in a natural selection basis. If you're going to use AI, then you have the opportunity as well. And also, when you use natural service, you buy one bull pretty much and you breed him to all the cows. One advantage of AI is you could use multiple different bulls to match up more directly with, say, if you have a cow that's already a heavy milker and you want to kind of, keep that moderate, you can get an AI straw and breed to that cow that's more moderate for milk. Whereas another cow that might be underperforming in milk, you breed it to a higher milking bull. So you can really target selection with your AI. And the costs have come down tremendously, particularly since we can synchronize and do timed AI and don't have to watch heat and do all those things. We can have pretty good success with that as well. The only thing I would caution you against is a lot of times, Adam, particularly in these smaller herds, if they're going to do AI, you either have to keep back so many replacements so that you can account for the fact that you're probably going to only get about 60 to 70% of them bred. So you have to keep more replacements to handle that, or you still have to buy the herd bull. And so then you've kind of defeated the purpose. So just be aware of that from an economics point.
Okay, the next question is, in a crossbreeding rotation, are there bulls that are better combinations as the A and B bulls?
Yes. You get some differences. You get more heterosis the more divergent the two breeds are. Okay. So Hereford and Angus are both British breeds. So we don't get as high a heterosis if you breed an Angus to a Hereford as you would, say, an Angus to a Simmental being a continental breed. And then I think you all know that if we throw in the other ringer there, which are the Brahman breeds, we even get a bigger boost. Now, I'm not advocating that because there are some issues there as well. You have to be aware of when we bring in very much Brahman influence, that's going to negatively impact your marketability of those calves. So you just have to be careful there if you're going to go that route and get the level so that you don't give up too much on the marketing side. But certain breeds do match better with the others. Now, you're not going to trick me into saying which breeds that you should pick for A and B. I'm not going there.
Fair enough. So it looks like I got at least another KCA submitted question. Just simply best heat detection methods.
Best is visual. probably. Well, Dr. Anderson is really kind of high these days on the ones, they have the ones, the sensors that's hooked up to the computer controls and everything as well. And those have done well. Of course, there's the patches. It's kind of hard to tell then with the patches in terms of exactly when that patch was broken and things like that. So it really and truly is one of those that probably the more you're willing to invest, because of course the visual, it's going to take people out there watching. So there's a labor cost associated with that. That's probably ultimately the best, because you have a really good indication of exactly when they're in heat and know exactly when you probably should breed. Computer programs, there's some significant costs there, and they're probably just as good as the visual in that regard, but also the cost. More economical are going to be the patches, but probably not quite, as good a job when you're using the patches.
All right, it looks like we probably have time for one more question, and that is another KCA submitted question, a member question. Genomics versus early pregnancy detection for selecting replacement heifers.
I guess, Adam, I'm confused about the versus because we're talking about kind of two different things there, I think. Say the question one more time. Let me see if I can.
It just says genomics versus early pregnancy detection for selecting replacement heifers.
Well, I tell you what, if you're talking about the commercial test, and that might be what they're referring to. Once again, those are not you can do both. I mean, it's not an either or. So I guess that's where I'm confused with the verses. Now, there are genomics tests out there for commercial heifers these days. And I get asked about these from time to time, and I can tell you without a doubt that they work. They're effective. Those tests will tell you the better heifers versus, the heifers that have better genetics versus the ones that don't. Where I have some issue is just the return on investment, because it is a relatively high investment to put into those tests as well. So you need to be careful about that, because if you're testing all your heifers, so you do a genomics test on all your heifers and you're only keeping back 15% of them, that turns out when you put then the cost of the total thing back, it's not just the cost per heifer now you have to look at. Now you have to divide that total cost by just that 15%, which drives up what the cost of those tests really are. So I kind of like the concept, because usually, Adam, when people look at their heifers, they have a third of them that they say, I wouldn't keep those no matter what. They're ugly. They don't fit what I want represented in my herd. They have a third of them that they probably are going to say, I don't care what the genetics say on those. I like them and I'm going to keep them. Those middle third, maybe if you're going to try genomics testing, maybe test that middle third and let it sort out some of those better and worse ones that you might consider from that standpoint, and save you a few dollars in terms of, instead of doing the overall herd. So I hope that I got to that. But the other thing that they mentioned, and it's extremely important, is that it is important for heifers to get bred early. So that first time you get them bred, the earlier you can get them bred, the better they're going to be, the better chances they're going to have for lifetime production, because it gets them started on the right path. And so then even if they give up a few days that second year, we still can keep them in that good rotation so that we get a calf every year. So that one's critical. We do need to get heifers bred as early as possible.
Well, sounds good, Dr. Bullock. As always, it's great to have you with us. You've segued well into a couple of things that we're going to be talking about later. We are going to be talking about mineral, and you didn't talk about the importance of that, and also the importance of getting your cattle bred early. So, but with that said, we've talked a lot about KCA tonight. We're going to talk to both of our good friend Nikki Whitaker in here just a second. But thank you for your time, Dr. Bullock. As always, very informational. We will have this presentation online for other folks. If you can utilize this, or folks that any of you guys watching this at home can utilize this in some capacity, please do so. And we're going to shift gears to the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association Membership Coordinator, Nikki Whitaker. Nikki, how are you?
Doing well, Adam. How are you?
I am doing good. We appreciate the questions from your members tonight throughout the state. As you know, Hinton Mills is a member in a handful of counties and have a lot of our folks that are KCA members. We miss having as many in-person meetings this year, of course. Just a couple of things. We appreciate your time, but can you tell us how things are going in a COVID environment for most of the KCA members across the state? And then obviously we want you to talk a little bit about the benefits of being a KCA member.
Well, number one, Adam, thank you so much for having us tonight. And like you just mentioned, our KCA members were excited about this webinar series that you had with Dr. Bullock. We actually asked our membership to offer up some questions or more education topics. And so that's where some of those questions had came from. In a COVID year, we realized at our office how essential these county meetings are. As you well know, being a member in multiple counties, we have 99 strong county chapters, and those county chapters are what make up our state association. Unfortunately, but understandably, they were not able to meet a lot in this past year, and our membership suffered because of it. We are down statewide. There are several counties that are ahead of where they were last year, and so they are trucking and doing well, but we knew it was coming, and that's just the nature of the year that we've had. But it did show us that our county associations are the backbone of our association. They meet, sometimes those counties meet monthly, sometimes they meet quarterly, but their membership is what makes us who we are.
So sorry if I'm a little distracted, Nikki. There's baby chickens that have entered the office. We've got baby chickens here at the store. I know we're talking about cattle health, but my 7-year-old is here and she has found out that there's baby chickens at the store. So I can't help but lose my composure a little bit. But so you say there's 99 counties that have KCA associations, that have county associations, and we have a strong. The chicken has made it on the screen.
I can't compete with the chicken.
I can't compete with the chicken. All right, sweetie. So there's 99 counties. What's your furthest eastern, furthest western? I'm gonna put you on the spot. You guys go from tip to tip, or where are you guys stronger as far as membership numbers? I guess would be a better question. Where your predominant counties?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will correct you. We don't have 99 counties that have chapters. We have 99 chapters. So as you know, in our mountainous eastern part, you know, a lot of those counties form together. For example, our Greenup, Carter, Lawrence, you know, they do an affiliate, is what we call an affiliate chapter. Our Mountain Cattlemen are affiliate of a bunch of counties. We have a member in every single 120 counties. So we do go tip to tip.
Well, that is awesome. And we're you know, proud supporters of KCA. Appreciate all the things that you guys do. Know that you guys bring a lot of information. I guess the final question that I'd have for you tonight is, do you guys see opportunities to be able to, I guess, not just specifically for the counties, but as KCA, as Kentucky Beef Network, the various entities, to be able to use Zoom, some of the other technologies like we're using this week to be able to benefit your members and just be able to get information out there better? Yeah.
And we're really trying, and I hope we are doing a good job. I like to think that we are. For example, the questions that I was submitting earlier for Dr. Bullock, those came from what we started incorporating called a monthly membership question, where we are really just trying to connect with our members, see how they're doing, maybe some education that they want to hear about that they might not already have access to. The first one, for example, is just, what can we do for you? And we got, you know, a vast amount of answers from that. We've done some education webinar series. KBN with the Ag Development Board funding has allowed us to host a lot of webinars with speakers. So we're always thankful for that. That's more of our producer education platform that we have there. You know, right now we've got some going on. Later in the month of April, we're going to do some more on a legal kind of standpoint with a local firm. And so it just really opens Zoom, you know, I mean, take it or leave it, but it really does allow us to have the access to our members and those that may not be able to travel, plus might not have the time to travel. We're all busy. We've got jobs, we've got farms, and we've got families, and we need to be able to reach those members. And again, Zoom has allowed us to do that. Tomorrow we have our first quarter board meeting actually, and it is a hybrid model where we will have about 35 producers safely distanced in person, and then we'll have the rest on a Zoom platform. So, I mean, it has allowed us to reach more members on a daily basis.
All right, last time I'll put you on the spot is, have you guys made a decision on the summer grilling tour? Are you guys doing that again this year, some variation of that?
Yeah, some variation. That's a good phrase to use. Yes, our beef council, that is, you know, our consumer wing in our office and our entity. Summer grilling happens even in a COVID year. So people are getting their hamburgers and their steaks ready for the grill. And so we will have summer grilling packages. We'll be traveling and talking about the benefits of beef. And, you know, people are firing up their grills, like I said, no matter if they're home or out and about. So.
Thank goodness for that they are. So, well, thank you, Nikki. Thanks as always for visiting with us. Thanks for your help and all that we do. And we look forward to, we hope that you guys will consider, you guys have stopped by Hinton Mills location a few different years for a summer grilling tour stop. We like to eat. We like to eat beef. So if you guys want to stop here, make sure to pass it along that we're up for it again. And thanks again, Nikki. Appreciate your help with this meeting. Thanks for the good questions. And we're going to shift gears into some products. Again, we've got 5 locations, Hinton Mills. We've got products on sale, all the products that you need to keep your cattle healthy, things to set yourselves up for a profitable spring and summer, the things that our team, our customers, for that matter, have handpicked for us to have on sale during Cattle Health Days. Check those things out. You can go to hintonmills.com. A lot of you have probably received this in the mail that has a lot of the sale items. And we're going to talk about 3 of those categories tonight for about 5 to 6 minutes apiece. We're going to shift over to my good friend, Brent Williams with Berkman Mills, Berkman Nutrition, based out of Danville. They've been long-term partners of ours on a lot of things. And tonight, Brent, speaking of beef, we're going to be talking about MGA and Matchmaker cubes. I'm going to cede my time to Brent.
Adam, thank you. Appreciate it very much. And I'm going to try. Can you see my screen, Adam? Did I get it? Share. There it is. Is that working?
Yeah, it's good. You're
All
good.
right, appreciate it. I'm like some of those guys last night, you know, a little technology challenge, but we'll make it work. Appreciate the invite. We always appreciate participating in the animal health days and feed days and seed days and a lot of activity. Hinton does a good job engaging the community and focused on education and what's best for the farms. And we share a lot of the same philosophies. And so we're glad to participate and do what we can to help and promote our industry. I was sitting here thinking about this before I got on tonight, and we're talking about new technology. I wanted us to spend a little bit of time talking about the 7-day MGA feeding program and on natural service pasture bred animals. It's not new technology anymore. I guess we've been doing this and focused on this now for the last 6 or 7, 8 years, very hard. We've talked about it at the health days for the last few years. And part of that is because we feel like this is so important. There's such a return for the farmer that we just got to keep talking about it. And I'm going to steal a phrase from Dr. John Johns that, you know, he says every cow needs to be on Rumensin. And I'm going to caveat that also with every cow needs MGA for 7 days if she's going to be being pasture bred, bull bred. So there's a little caveat into what we're going to talk about. This is a study done by the University of Kentucky back in 2001. It's a multi-year, multi-farm, multi-herd collaborative research effort. So it's got a lot of validity to it. Large number of cows. And I will say that over the last 7, 8 years, we've been able to very much duplicate the results on most every farm that we've done this program on. So I think this research is so valid, and the information gained from it is very much spot on. Feeding MGA for 7 days, we see a decrease in days to pregnancy, and that's important, and we'll go through that in a minute. Also, the pregnancy rate increases by 10%. 80% is a normal herd. It's an average herd, but with the MGA 7-day feeding rate, we've been able to increase that by 10%. What's even more important than also that is that we're able to get 30% of these cows bred quicker within the first 30 days. And I'll show you some economics behind that here in just in a second. So here's some of the results of another trial, and we'll get into the economics. 2 different large size groups, 564 cows on the control group, 576 cows in the MGA group. So there's 12 more cows in the MGA group, but there was 67 more calves born than there was in the control group. Why? We got more cows pregnant. The other thing to please take note of is that the weaning weights between the 2 groups. The control group was 564 pounds. The MGA group was 604. Both of these groups of calves were treated identically. They both had the same type of grass, the same environment, the same management. So why did the MGA calves weigh more at weaning? It's pretty simple. They're older. There's more age on those calves, and so an older calf is always going to outweigh a younger calf in the same environment. Another interesting and very noted point here is that we're in the beef business to sell pounds. That's the only way we get paid, is we sell pounds. And so we need to look at wean pounds per cow exposed, because we still have carrying costs on all those cows, not just the ones that got pregnant, but all of our cows. And so we had 93 more pounds of weaned calf per exposed cow using the MGA. Well, Brent, that sounds all good and fine, but show me the money, right? Help me understand why this is that much more important on a financial standpoint. So as of this week, we took pricing this week. We took the average steer heifer price. This just happened to be out of Lexington. And on the control group weighing 564 pounds, they were averaging $1.52. The MGA group of calves that weighed 604 were averaging $1.45. I always like to point out that why is the price on the MGA calves less than the control group? And that's simply because there's a price slide on those calves because they're bigger. So we slid them. In reality, those calves today probably would bring very close to the same money per pound, but we felt like in order to be fair to the study that we needed to do the price slide. So the income per calf is $857 on the control group and $875 on the MGA calves. But where the biggest difference comes in is in income per cow exposed. There's a $102 difference advantage to the MGA calves. There's a couple reasons for that. One, we got more cows pregnant than in the control group. We also weaned off heavier calves, in the MGA group simply because they were older. And the cost of the MGA is less than $4 a cow to be able to use the MGA Cube 7-day feeding program. So that's a net return of $98.82 per cow exposed. I've been reading the cattle facts info. So how important is that $98? I don't know what else in the cattle business we can spend $4 and get 100. I don't know of another thing that we could possibly do to have that kind of return. But on the cattle facts information I've been reading all year for the last year, they were projecting that a cow calf operation could expect somewhere between $75 and $100 profit per cow this year in 2020. Just in this data alone, we just doubled that. We just doubled our profit potential by feeding 14 pounds total in 7 days. So that's why we keep talking about this every year, every breeding season, because I don't know of another thing we can do to have this kind of return. So how do we get the MGA in them? What we've decided to do a few years ago was to put the MGA into a cube, which is about the size of your thumb. We felt like that was the most convenient and most flexible way for the farmer to be able to feed these to the cows. You can feed them on the ground, you can feed them in a bunk, you can feed them in piles, you can feed them on top of rolled out hay. Whatever is the easiest for you just gives you a lot more flexibility. It's 2 pounds per head per day. Like I said, the cost is less than $4 a cow. One of the interesting tidbits here, and we get questions on this all the time, there's no additional bull power needed when you do the 7-day MGA feeding program, because not all the cows will come in heat at the same time. They're still going to be staggered, but what we're seeing is that the calves will cycle earlier, and they will cycle stronger and be more fertile, especially in that first heat. So no more additional bull power is needed. We also make this in a ½ pound meal type product for those guys that are doing some grind and mix on the farm or doing some TMR feeding at the farm. So there's another opportunity to get the MGA into them. On this slide, there's a little graph here that just talks about, MGA, start at day 0, go to day 7, and then turn your bulls in on day 8. That's just a quick reference to be able just to understand that visually. I can't remember if I got, let me see if I got another slide. No. So I've got a couple helpful hints. A helpful hint on this is if your cows are not used to being fed any grain, which most of our cows are not used to grain prior to breeding season, go get you a few pounds of farm feed or a cow collar type feed and feed those cows just a little bit of grain for a day or two prior to starting the MGA program. It gets the cows used to having a little bit of grain in their mouth, and the palatability of the cubes will become even stronger once you start this program by just feeding those cows a little bit. So
you've already answered the first question, man. That was the first question that popped up was exactly what you just answered. So well done.
On a rare occasion, we've had some palatability, the only time I've had refusal from cows on these cubes is cows that hadn't seen grain in a long time. But once you do a little cow collar type feed, just to get a little grain in their mouth, the cubes, the consumption is fine. It's perfect.
Well, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm assuming that was your last slide. So I've got a question that is specific to what you've got on the screen right now.
Okay.
You're talking about the 7 days, turn them in on day 8. So the question is, if I started the 7-day feeding period and the bull gets in before day 8, have I hurt my chances for success?
It's a good question, Adam. We get that question quite often. There's nothing, just leave the bull in there. There's no harm. There's no risk. I tell people he may feel funny for a day, but he doesn't. But there's no harm in that. Just if he does get in, increase your MGA cube that you feed, and you might as well feed him 2 pounds a day too, just to make sure that you get enough intake of the cubes on the other remaining cows, but no harm.
Okay, I've got another question here. My cow herd has a terrible long calving season. Is it possible to do 2 different 7-day feeding programs? And I think this is a follow-up to that. Would it hurt any of the cows if they are already bred?
Yeah, you can do this twice. Typically what we recommend is waiting. So on day 8, you turn the bulls in, and then I would wait at least past the next cycle. So another 21, 28 days, let that cycle go through, and then start feeding day 0 again and on. If all MGA does is especially if the cow's already bred, she's just going to think she's more bred. So there's no harm. There's no fear at all for any fetal harm at all. If a cow is bred earlier and you feed her MGA, no harm at all. And we're seeing that. So we've got some herds, that especially, where I see this the most is guys that have a 365-day breeding season. They leave the bull in year round, and they've gone to some KCA meetings, and they've listened to a lot of our, experts and extension specialists that says, we really need defined calving seasons. There's a whole lot of advantages to defined calving seasons. And then they start thinking about that. And then they're like, okay, well, I don't want to sell all my cows and start over. So then that's when we talk about the multi 7-day feeding thing, just to really try to do it. We can't do it in a year, but over a few years, we can really get that back and tightened in. That reminds me, there was a gentleman I talked to. As a matter of fact, he was from the Flemingsburg area a few years ago. And he said, Brent, and he was an interesting fella. And he said, Brent, he said, Mike, I've got 100 cows. My pregnancy percentage is 90%. And my calving interval, my calving period is 60 days. He says, why do I need MGA? Well, you probably don't, other than that's really, really, really cheap insurance to protect that wonderful 90% in 60 days. It's for $400, if I say, Mr. Farmer, for $400, I can try to do everything I can do to help keep you at 90% and maybe turn that into 91, 92, 93%, but we'll protect that 60-day calving interval, 60-day calving period. And I think that that's crucial. So you're still on mute.
I was just saying that we appreciate you being on here tonight. I know that if we were doing this in person, that we could always count on you being where we're at. But appreciate you. I guess you're joining us from Danville. Is that where you're at tonight?
I am. I actually came to my office.
Well,
I had better internet. I had better internet in my office than I do at my house.
That's the same here, but keep this in mind. If you ever have technical difficulty, like you were earlier, there is an IT department in Sparta, Tennessee, that we found out about last night. That we're sure that you can call.
I'm part of their team.
You're part of the team. Okay.
I thought about going to Sparta and sitting at their table with them.
Well, I will tell you this, that two really smart men that I trust, kind of directly or indirectly subscribe to MGA to a certain extent. What Dr. Bullock was talking about earlier, the importance of calving early is reinforced by what you're talking about. But the other thing, as you know, my dad many times will say throughout the year that the best thing that we can sell folks to help them make money, it doesn't necessarily help us make money, but it helps our producers make money. And if they're doing good, it's good for us is to have them use MGA. So appreciate you being on here talking about that tonight. Tell your dad hello, and hopefully you can stick around for a little bit for the next folks up. Is next on the screen is the cowboy tonight, our good friend Ryan Bapst. There's no snow on the ground. This is one of the, if you guys haven't, look up Ryan's videos. He does some cool videos, and some of those this year have involved sleigh riding. I'll let you look them up yourself. But Ryan, thanks for being on here. One of the things we talked about earlier tonight that was brought up with Dr. Bullock was the importance of a good mineral program. And so you're going to be talking about a few different things tonight. I know that we're going to be quick hitters on this. But the things that we're hoping to talk about is Rumensin, which I know was brought up also by Brent, fly control, which is one of the things we talked about on Tuesday night, and then a breeder mineral. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Ryan. Thanks for being here.
All right. Hey, thanks, Adam. Is everything working clear on here? All right, good deal. All right, thanks a lot, Adam. And I want to thank the Hinton family for inviting us to do this. The folks in their area are really fortunate to have them not only as suppliers of great products, but as really good people that bring a lot to the table for their producers and to help them be more profitable for the future. So I wanted to touch a little bit on some of the mineral products that are highlighted during Animal Health Days. Not going to talk about specific products per se, but talk a little bit in generalities. The first group of minerals I wanted to touch on are breeder minerals. And like Brent said in there, a lot of this mineral stuff is not new technology, but it's technology that pays. And, the first one are the breeder minerals. Breeder minerals we've got several offered during this week, and they're typically minerals that are going to contain elevated levels of organic or chelated trace minerals such as copper, zinc, manganese, cobalt, and selenium. Those are all the big heavy hitter trace minerals that really affect fertility and immune function. We've got a lot of stuff going on with our cows this time of year. We're transitioning from winter to warm weather, and basically we're hopefully transitioning out of mud season to good grass country. And, that's a big strain when these cows are having calves or have already just had calves. They're milking, they're going through a lot of stress, and we need them to start cycling back and firing off and getting pregnant. So that's what these breeder minerals do. These organic and higher levels of organic trace minerals are going to help them cows fire off, get pregnant quicker. And like Brent was talking about a few minutes ago, when cows get pregnant sooner, the bigger their calves are going to be if they're a little bit older. If a cow gets bred in the first heat cycle versus the second heat cycle, that's another 21 days on that calf. Calves roughly on average are going to gain about 2 pounds a day when they're on mama. So at weaning time, they're going to weigh about 42 pounds more, which is about 60, 65 bucks a head more in your pocket whenever they run through the sale barn. So breeder minerals make really good sense, typically for an investment of $5, $6, $8 per bag. They can really pay off for you and getting them cows synced up, firing off and breeding quicker. Next group of minerals I want to talk about are fly control minerals. And these are feed-through fly control options that we can use. These are a really simple, cost-effective way to help your cows reduce the amount of stress that's on them. And that's going to help them be better grazers because they're not standing packed up underneath shade trees and being stressed out all the time. It's going to help them just with health where you don't have flies biting and transmitting diseases. The first couple products I want to talk about are mineral products that have Alticid IGR or Clarifly in them. Alticid IGR and Clarifly, they both work in the same way as they break the life cycle of the flies through their manure and reduce the fly populations. They don't really help them repel flies like other products do, but they break the fly life cycle, which reduces the total population on the farm. Alticid IGR is a product that's been around for a while, and it works really, really well, and it reduces populations of the horn fly, those little teeny blood suckers on their back that really cause havoc on the cows, and they're the most economically damaging to your herd. Clarifly is a product that covers not only horn flies, but also stable flies, house flies, and face flies. So if you've got cows coming into barns or in a feedlot type situation where they're coming in, making a big manure pack in a confined situation, Clarifly might be a little bit better option or way to go to help that in the environment. But those are ones that help reduce the population and knock it down. And those work really good in combination. If you're using fly tags or something like that, you can really hammer down the fly pressure on cows. Also, there's several products that we offer that have garlic or cinnamon in them. And what happens with these is the cows consume these minerals that have the garlic or cinnamon oil in them. Whenever they digest them, it can turn to a sulfur compound that the cows emit through their natural oils, through their skin, and it acts as a repellent. So that works really good in a lot of different situations. One thing I do stress with any of these feed-through fly control options is that, you know, mineral management is key. The cows need to have access to the mineral all the time. It needs to be fresh. We don't need to be just dumping a bunch of mineral out every 2 weeks, whether they need it or not. We need to be managing that mineral, keeping it where they're walking by it all the time. Don't be cutting it with salt to where we have good intakes. That is key. Mineral management is key for getting the most bang for your buck with a feed-through fly control mineral type deal. Also wanted to touch on Rumensin mineral options. Especially if you're running replacement heifers, stocker cattle, things like that, Rumensin mineral really helps cattle more efficiently utilize your forages and feeds on the farm. It helps you get a little more bang for your buck and makes good digestive health in your cattle. Typically, we're going to see a 10% increase in feed to gain conversion on stocker cattle. And you know, if you got stocker cattle out there on grass and they're, you know, gaining 2 pounds a day and they're just on a regular mineral, you add Rumensin or Rumensin to that, you're going to see an increase of about 0.2 to 1/4 pound a day in those cattle just for that. And typically we're going to see about a 5-to-1 return on investment with adding Rumensin to your mineral program. So that's a real nice option that works in a lot of good situations. Also, I wanted to touch on some high mag options that are available out there still. You know, we're just getting the grass peeking out and jumping up, and them cows are going out after that really nice hot lush stuff, and that can cause some issues, especially if they're milking real hard or older cattle. The high mag blocks work really nice because we're busy this time of year, starting to get into planting. You can throw those out there, let those cows hit them blocks. They have good intakes on them, and that'll cover you against grass tetany. Also, if you know, you want a little better mineral program and a little more simplicity and feeding convenience, we've also got on sale the Crystal Licks High Mag Fescue Licks. And this has been our biggest seller product in Kentucky and Tennessee over the past several years. It is a 200-pound low moisture tub that the cows are going to eat about a 1/2 pound a day, but it's got high levels of magnesium in them. It's got elevated levels of copper and zinc in it, which you know, helps combat some of the deficiency of fescue pastures and hay. But it's also got a product in it called FEB200, which is a toxin binder that helps bind up the harmful effects of the ergot alkaloid in fescue. So that's a real nice product to use in there and covers a lot of bases for you. So, you know, I hope everybody enjoys all this stuff, but, you know, with the breeder minerals, I'd like to say that's the easiest way out there to optimize fertility and especially immune response in your cattle. With your fly control feed through minerals, we're probably an extra $4 to $5 per cow over a normal mineral program. You can significantly reduce fly populations in your herd. And then you want a little extra bang for your buck out of your forage program, you can utilize a Rumensin mineral to help get the most gain for your forage program. So I'll turn it back over to you, Adam. Thank you very much. And
sounds good, Ryan.
Tuning in.
I got a question for you. So is Rumensin safe for all classes of cattle?
Yeah, yes, it is. It works good for all classes of cattle.
What about
calves and
other livestock though?
Rumensin is not approved for sheep, and it is extremely harmful to horses. You can use it in goats. You know, it's not on the labels, right, for our cattle minerals, but yeah, it's very, very harmful and dangerous to horses. So if you're using Rumensin mineral, you got horses in the pasture, I would get them out.
Yeah, highly recommended for cattle, but will kill a horse. So one more question for you, Ryan. Can I use 2 different kinds of feed through fly control at the same time in my herd?
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
Okay. So I've had this happen to me a couple times in practice out on farms, and people say, well, I put I put my Alticid IGR mineral out there in one feeder, and I put something else out there, Clarifly, in another one. Well, what happens is cows will split time and intake between one type or the other. So they're not eating enough of one type to get the active ingredient in. So if you're going to use a feed through fly control, go whole hog on a farm with whether it's Alticid IGR, whether it's Clarifly, or whether you use a garlic or cinnamon. Go all with one type to get the best.
And one other thing is, this, I guess it's not so much a question, but a comment that we've talked about this earlier in the week. And at some of our other trainings that we've done this month is keep in mind when you're using a fly control mineral that it's all about the program. It's not getting healthy is not just about good sleep or drinking plenty of water or exercise. It's the combination of those things. So fly control mineral, fly tags, pour on dewormer, that's our recommended. That's the Hinton Mills recommended program. It's some combination of that. And again, Ryan, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for all you do to help our customers and help our team. Hope that you can stick around, and we're going to shift gears and head to Melissa Green. Melissa's going to be with us. She's got a slideshow. Thank you, all you guys that have stuck around tonight. This is our last presenter of the night. Melissa's going to be talking about 10G probiotics. We use those in our feed, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And I'm going to turn things over to Melissa. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good. All right. All right. Well, thanks for having me, and to the rest of the Hinton Mills family. And I appreciate your business. And but I'm Melissa Green. I work for Life Products. It's a family-owned company based out in Nebraska. I live in Tennessee. I cover the East. I'm the Eastern U.S. sales manager. And I think, can I control my slide? Okay, just making sure. But I'm going to talk about our probiotics. We have some other products as well, silage inoculants, a drench product called Battle that you guys also handle. And I have a slide on that at the end, but primarily just want to focus on the probiotics for this presentation. So what do? Probiotics, they affect all 3 pillars of gut health. Those are having a healthy microbiome, right, in the rumen all the way out to the large intestine, as well as epithelial health in those intestines. You want good absorption without, leaky gut issues, and help with reducing inflammation issues like that. Also, it's a large portion of the immune system, and you really want a healthy immune response, and having bacteria in there, beneficial bacteria, can really help with all 3 of those pillars. So 10G is our probiotic, and like Adam said, it's provided, you can get it in some custom bulk feeds, right? But it is a patented 5-strain combination of beneficial bacteria. You can add it to the feed, you can add it to mineral, milk replacers. We have a hand add powder form that you can add to the milk replacer, as well as top dress feeds with boluses. We even have a drench form, it's called shoot side. But one thing that differentiates us from several other probiotics is that we have a patented encapsulation that keeps our bacteria stable, so that it gets to, let me go back here, so that it actually makes it to the digestive tract alive. So not only alive to the feed mill or in a bag of feed, along with ambient moisture or moisture from the feed or when sitting in a bay, but actually make it alive to the digestive system of the animal. And we've got stability research. Easily, we've gone out a year generally. We have gone on pet foods up to 2 years. So pretty interesting. It's pretty phenomenal, really, for fragile strains like we have. I was just going to go over briefly just a few key research trials that we have. This one was done on a research farm on baby calves. So from birth on out to day 70, they were weaned at day 50. They were fed pasteurized waste milk twice a day, up to 7 quarts, so fed really well, and then given calf starters starting on day 3 all the way out. And broke it down. We had 4 treatment groups. The blue bar is a control group that didn't get a probiotic at all. The orange got our probiotic in the milk, gray got it in the grain, and then the yellow bar, they got it in both the milk and the grain. And it was interesting because no matter how they got the probiotic across the board, and it was statistically significant, we saw 8 to 12% improvements in average daily gains. And also on feed efficiency, we saw anywhere from 2 to 7% improvement. So pretty big difference there. We broke it down into a line graph to see, hey, how's this help with the post-weaning slump? Because we weaned at day 50. So you can see on here, the bottom bar, the blue bar is a control group. So anything above that received our 10G probiotic in some form or fashion, whether it be in the milk or the grain or in the milk and the grain. So you see it does separate off and does help reduce that post-weaning slump. The gray bar is really interesting. That one was actually just in the feed, totally eliminated a post-weaning slump. So pretty interesting. This just a handout that combines several university trials that showed the first 30 days of receiving 10G in a starter ration. We had an average improvement of 8% average daily gain. This trial was done actually at the University of Kentucky and is in the Journal of Animal Science in 2015. There's 2 sections here. On the right side, we went up against a leading competitor in a control group. You can see 72 crossbred steers. And we looked at feed efficiency, average daily gain. We did outperform our competitor in both the control group as well. Then on the bottom left side, we looked at acidosis issues. Can we reduce subacute acidosis? And we did, and it was statistically significant. You can see there we maintained a higher rumen pH throughout the whole trial. So it is proven to reduce subacute acidosis. This is just compiled research, field trials, university research. You can see on the right-hand side the percent change in feed efficiency. And you can see initial body weight, final body weight. It is across the board. So starting at 5 weights, 6 weights, all the way up to 1,400 pounds. So across the board, body weight, 2.2% improvement on feed efficiency. This trial actually just came out recently, and they just sent me this graph. This is all I have right now for this trial, but we looked at providing 10G and how it might reduce salmonella issues in the lymph nodes of heifers. So we actually reduced salmonella percentage by 53% compared to a control group. So big difference there. And this was just, kind of compile bottom line. What did we see? So average daily gain across the board, 12 to 30% really. But the younger the animal, the more naive the system, it seems, and the bigger the benefit that we have when it comes to average daily gain or feed efficiency is what we're noticing. Improved feed efficiency, 2.2%. We have seen generally a reduced death loss by about 4%. We've gone up to 8% reduction, and then less treats and retreats by roughly about 15% reduction. We have even seen improved reproductive performance and even somatic cell counts in the dairy cows. So throughout a whole 14-week period, reduction at every week on somatic cell count. So it's interesting how a probiotic actually does communicate with the brain, as well as reproductive system, mammary tissue. And even researchers don't even know exactly all the modes of action, but they do know that it communicates and can affect things like reproduction. And also here, E. coli, salmonella reduction. Another good thing, you don't have to have a VFD to include 10G in the feed. And then just real briefly, wanted to touch on Battle Drench because Hinton Mills does handle our energy drench called Battle in gallons and quart size, I believe. But it's an energy drench. Our patented ingredient is ethyl alcohol. It also contains chelated minerals, vitamins, molasses carrier, but the best way to provide it is to drench it. You can top dress it, but really rapid source of energy because of the ethyl alcohol patented ingredient. But great for newborn calves, incoming cattle, fresh cows, sick pens, things like that. And that's it. Just wanted to briefly touch on it. I do have, obviously many more research trials I can share if anybody's interested or want any details on inclusion rates or pricing and things like that. And Adam can also help there. So
sounds good, Melissa. I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, the question up on the screen here is asking about a probiotic, mixing it with essentially using it at the same time as a prebiotic. What are your thoughts on that?
The more you can have, the better. A prebiotic is great, right? Because it feeds a probiotic. It's a food source for that probiotic. So yeah, absolutely. If you can afford to put both a prebiotic and a probiotic in at the same time, I think that's a great combination.
And then we've got how much does it cost to include, a ballpark? What does it cost to include in your rations?
I believe, and you might have to correct me, but I believe it's roughly about $8 a ton, given it depends on the feed intake, right? If they're getting roughly 5 pounds per head per day, you're going to add about 2 pounds inclusion rate. It's very concentrated, and it's 1 billion CFUs of bacteria per dose, but that does come out to about $8 a ton if they're getting 5 pounds per head per day. But to break it down even more, it's about 2 cents per head per day.
And it is $8 per ton of feed to go back to what you were saying. I got another question here. How does 10G reduce salmonella? That's a little tougher question, but
yeah, well, and there are different modes of action. A real common one is competitive exclusion, right? So along the digestive tract, there's on the epithelial lining, there's microvilli that are attachment sites for good bacteria and bad bacteria. They compete for the same space, right, and consume the same nutrients. So as you constantly provide beneficial bacteria, you're out competing for space along that intestinal lining. So that is one way. That's a common one people talk about. Also, they produce acids that make it a less conducive environment, you could say, for pathogenic bacteria and a better environment for the beneficial bacteria. So that's just another mode of action, but there's more to it. And honestly, there's a lot more research to be done. They still do not know all the modes of actions, but those are just a couple.
Couple more questions. This one's about Battle beef drench. Is it okay to use Battle on scouring calves?
Yes, that would be a great place to use it. And it's a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard testimonials from folks. Once they give it, a lot of people say 15 minutes or so, something that's sick, depending on how bad off they are, something that's sick will actually get back up and eat again. So that's the whole point, right? Is to get them eating again and feeling better, so that they want to eat so they can get better. But that would be a great place for it.
And then the last question, Melissa, is I guess this, I'm going to lob you a softball here. Are all probiotics the same?
No, absolutely not. And another kind of interesting point is we've done research on top of competitors and found a benefit of adding our probiotic along with other competitors. So kind of interesting just to have, more diversity in strains. But I would say the key point is that you're getting something that's alive, because they are extremely fragile bacteria, depending on the type of strain you're using. Generally, the more fragile ones are the more beneficial strains. And so you have to have some sort of encapsulation. So our patent encapsulation has significantly helped on stability. And that's always been the biggest issue. And back in the day, people called it foo-foo dust. But ours is not foo-foo dust. Ours does survive.
Well, Melissa, we appreciate that you or John are always helping us out on things related to life products, things related to 10G and Battle beef drench. So thanks for being here tonight. I'm glad we were able to work it out from your home in Tennessee to be here with us. And for all you guys listening at home, thank you so much for being here for some of you guys for 2 or 3 nights of Cattle Health Days, our first ever online version of that. We hope that next year we'll be able to get back to an in-person event. We're sure that we will. Look forward to other in-person events this year, but we are going to try to to keep doing some of these virtual events. Again, we've got one coming up. April the 27th is our next event. We've got an event with our deputy state veterinarian who was with us earlier this week. Dr. Alex Hagan has an awesome cattle background, which is obviously very applicable to you guys watching this and to many of our customers. He's going to be with us talking about, again, we've went through this COVID era, know that it can happen with humans and the craziness that we've gone through. We've obviously, the more preparation that we can do, the better. Hope that we don't have a situation like this, but someday we might. Is talking about a secure beef supply plan. And so the Department of Ag just wants to share that plan with you as cattlemen. So if you can pass that along, same mode of action, get a hold of check us out on Facebook, go to hintonmills.com. There'll be a link at some point during the month of April where you can sign up and be a part of this. Last two things, if this was helpful, please let us know. If you guys can send us a message via Facebook Messenger, if you can email us, if you can just let us know at one of our stores if these online sessions were helpful, what we can do to make it better for you, to make it more useful for you. And then lastly, Cattle Health Days is going on the rest of this week. We've got a sale on many products, things that we believe that will help make your operation more profitable, make your life therefore better, going on all this week through Saturday at all 5 Hinton Mills locations. Check out that pricing on hintonmills.com. Or give us a call, come by and see us curbside. And again, thank you for stopping by, all the folks that have been a part of it this week as an attendee, as a panelist, all the folks that have helped make this happen, Julie Fritz and Stephen Smalley for helping along the way. And again, thank you for your friendship of Hinton Mills. We appreciate all that you do, and we'll sign off tonight.